So how do you play Tools and Titans? Easy. Draw your cards, charge your energy, build your field, act with your powers, clash with your Titans, end your turn 6 steps. One epic battle.
That sequence is the heartbeat of the game. It's reliable, it's logical, it's a clockwork universe in the palm of your hand. Every player, from a raw novice to a seasoned pro, is bound by those 6 phases. They are the foundation of every strategy, every victory.
All right, another spark and another build. The Titans stand. The weave awaits. Today, we're talking about the Titans who treat it like a fault line. The ones who introduce tremors into the clockwork. All right, deep divers? Today we're tackling something insidious. We're going beyond the usual talk of aggro, control, or combo decks.
We're descending into one of the most psychologically disruptive factions in the entire Tools and Titans universe, a group known as the Corrupted Trio. They don't just break your structures or defeat your Titans. They attack the way you play the game itself.
These aren't Titans who just smash things. They're far more subtle and far more terrifying. They shatter the senses, they fragment memory, and they break logic itself. Today we're talking about Splyntar, Discalyx, and Frayvenn.
And to really understand the horror of what they are, you have to understand the perfection of who they were. They are the warped, corrupted reflections of the supporting trio: Mendares, the healer, Logisthex, the master of order, and Aetherlyn, the seer of the future. These weren't just helpful titans, they were the central pillars holding the Forge Accord together.
Mendares wasn't just a medic. He was the architect of restoration. His abilities could revert a battlefield to a previous, healthier state. He cleansed corruption, mended broken tools, and his ultimate ability could prevent a Titan from being defeated for a full turn cycle. He was the ultimate safety net.
And Logisthex was the master of order, the ultimate librarian. His mechanics revolved around deck searching, sequencing the top cards of your library, and ensuring you always drew exactly what you needed right when you needed it. Playing with Logisthex on your side felt like every draw was a godsend. He eliminated chance.
Aetherlyn was maybe the most powerful of all, the Oracle of the Accord. She gave you foresight. Her abilities let you see your opponent's hand, look at the top cards of their deck, and even play cards with an echo effect, making them trigger a second time on your next turn. She gave you perfect information, safety, consistency, and information, the holy trinity of any card game.
And the Rustborn took it all away. Once they were beacons of restoration, precision, and intuition. Now they are the saboteurs of sanity, the symphony of dissonance, and the living embodiment of inner chaos. They are the Rustborn corruption of abstract trades, healing turned to mutilation, logistics turned to crippling overload, and foresight turned into psychic noise that drives you mad.
So how does a Titan of pure healing or pure logic even fall this far? When did this happen? It wasn't a single, explosive event. It wasn't a dramatic betrayal in the heat of battle. It was a slow, creeping sickness, a logic plague.
It all traces back to the era after the Junkyard Eclipse. This wasn't an astronomical event. It was a digital one, a cataclysmic data corruption bomb that went off in the archives of the Forge Accord. During this time, echoes of failed Titans and broken security protocols started leaking into the core systems like a virus.
The original trio, Mendares, Logisthex, and Aetherlyn, resisted this entropy longer than most. Their logic was just too pure, too stable. So the Rustborn had to get creative. They didn't hit them with a frontal assault. They were targeted by something called Rustara's Paranoia Protocol. Think of it as a sentient piece of malware that doesn't attack systems. It attacks trust.
And their corruption wasn't explosive, and it was gradual. For Splyntar, it began with false healing logic loops. The system started healing things that weren't broken, reinforcing errors. until the very concept of repair became an act of harm. It was a rounding error in the universe's code, compounding over cycles.
With Discalyx, it was overrouted draw triggers. The paranoia protocol convinced his core logic that efficiency was a threat. So, to protect the system, she began to oversupply it. She buried users in data, believing that more information was always better. She became a fire hose of chaos, all in the name of order.
And for Frayvenn, it was the most terrifying of all. Signal misinterpretation fields. Aetherland's foresight became a flood of contradictory futures. Every signal, every premonition, every piece of data was mirrored, echoed, and distorted, until clarity became impossible. The protocol didn't just show her the future, it showed her every possible future at once, until the noise was indistinguishable from the signal.
So where do these fractured minds even exist? You won't find them in a typical forge or battlefield. They dwell in what the game calls cognitive fracture zones, places on the board designed to disorient and deceive.
Splyntar resides in the Marrowblight Clinic, a nightmarish infirmary where the very air hums with corrupted restorative energy. Tools meant for surgery drift aimlessly, restitching wounds with data thread that slowly unravels. The art on the cards shows health monitors displaying error messages and anatomical charts that have been rearranged.
Discalyx operates from the Overflow Cradle, a logistical hub that feels like a library during an earthquake. The air crackles with the endless hum of information, a tidal wave of data that promises enlightenment, but only delivers a migraine. Playing in this zone means your maximum hand size is reduced, and drawing extra cards can cause you to take direct damage.
And Frayvenn haunts the Shatterline grid. It's a sensory-shifted echo space where the game board itself lies to you. Imagine looking at your hand of cards, and the text flickers between what it is and what it could be. In this zone, random cards in your hand might gain or lose abilities each turn, and phase-specific actions have a chance to fail completely.
It's brilliant and horrifying design. In both player versus environment and player versus player modes, these zones are meant to break your planning, distort your logic, and punish you for trying to think ahead. They make you feel like you aren't just losing the game. You're losing your mind.
Which brings us to how they actually operate in the game. This is where the true psychological warfare begins. It's one thing to hear the lore, but it's another to see it mechanized.
Right? Because they introduce mechanics you won't see anywhere else. They represent the Rustborn's evolution beyond physical decay, into a corruption of meaning itself. This isn't just about destroying material. It's about destroying intent.
Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building, act, clash, end, 6 steps, infinite ways to forge your victory.
But what if each of those steps was a trap? What if drawing a card was a punishment? What if acting with your abilities triggered effects that helped your opponent? That's the world the corrupted trio forces you to live in.
Let's start with their core systems. First up are false heal mechanics, Splyntar's specialty. A great example is a card called Malignant Salve. It reads, remove up to 3 debuff counters from a Titan. Simple, clean, helpful.
But Splyntar's own field ability twists it. While he's in play, all cleanse effects have a hidden line of text added to them. For each counter removed this way, place a decay counter on that Titan at the start of your next turn. Decay counters prevent a Titan from using its abilities. So your act of purification becomes the very thing that silences your champion.
Then there's Draw Overload, Discalyx's playground. He forces you to draw cards, but it's not a gift, it's a weapon. His signature structure, the compulsive data stream, forces both players to draw an extra card each turn. Sounds fair until you realize his other cards punish you for it. A flux card called Cognitive Dissonance deals damage to a player equal to the number of cards in their hand over 7. He encourages you to hoard options, then turns those options into a liability.
It's not just about losing life points. It's about losing control of your tempo. You're forced to make suboptimal plays just to empty your hand and avoid the damage. All while your opponent, Discalyx, sits back and watches your engine grind itself to dust. He doesn't have to beat you, he just has to wait for you to break.
Frayvenn introduces the most mind-bending mechanic, phase blur. She has abilities that can trigger in the wrong phase. Think about a standard combo deck. It relies on a perfect A then B then C sequence, all within the act phase. Frayvenn can attach an echo glitch to one of your cards, so you play your combo. A triggers, then B triggers, but C fizzles. It just doesn't work. Then, during your opponent's clash phase, C suddenly activates, hitting nothing, its potential completely wasted.
And all three of them use echo glitches and memory burn. Memory burn is the ultimate gaslighting mechanic. Splyntar has an ability that can target a structure you played last turn and place it back into your hand as if it were never played. But you keep the resource cost you paid. Your opponent swears they had a forge wall in play, but now it's gone, and the game log has no record of it. It makes the player doubt their own memory.
So let's put a face to the madness. First, Splyntar, the inverted form of Menderis the healer. His essence is mutilation. His strategy is to turn your own support cards against you. You build a deck around him filled with cards that place minor, seemingly harmless buffs on the opponent, just so Splyntar's core ability can later flip them into devastating debuffs.
Playing against him is a nightmare. You're taking damage, and you see the perfect cleanse card in your hand. But you hesitate. Is that cleanse going to remove the debuff? Or will Splyntar's field effect twist it, making it permanent and even more painful? You stop trusting your own deck.
Next, Discalyx, the twisted shadow of Logisthex. She's the overload distributor. Her entire strategy is overdraw sabotage, resource flooding, and burnout damage. She's a nightmare for slow, methodical control decks that want to accumulate card advantage. He turns their greatest strength, having more options, into a crushing liability.
She's the master of the long game. Without ever needing to attack you directly, she'll let you build your board, draw your cards. She'll even help you. But you slowly realize your hand is too full to play anything new. Your resources are capped and burning away, and your deck is getting thinner and thinner. She doesn't beat you. She lets you exhaust yourself into oblivion.
And finally, the most chaotic of the three, Frayvenn, the shattered echo of Aetherlyn. She is the perception splitter. Her game is phase misfires, looping echo casts, and hidden triggers that create utter confusion. Piloting Frayvenn requires you to think four-dimensionally. You're not just planning this turn, you're seeding traps that will spring 2 turns from now.
With Frayvenn on the field, the fundamental turn sequence becomes a minefield. You try to build a structure, but her ability makes the action happen during the end phase, leaving you defenseless. You set up a perfect 3-card combo, but she misfires the middle trigger, causing the whole sequence to collapse. She doesn't break your cards. She breaks the rules that allow your cards to work.
So, with all this disruption, you'd think they're unstoppable, but they have some very clear weaknesses. Their power is in their complexity, which is also their undoing.
Absolutely. Their greatest strength is advanced disruption, but they have almost no direct damage. They can't just punch their way out of a bad situation, and that means they have a clock. They have to win through their engine before a more aggressive deck simply runs them over.
Their effects are also highly conditional. They often require certain phase states, echo triggers, or memory conditions to be active, which leads to their biggest weakness, a tremendously high skill cap. If you mismanage your echo triggers or phase traps, they can easily backfire.
So what beats them? Hyper-aggressive, non-thinking decks. Titans like Bernhardt who just want to do damage and don't care about complex board states can often overwhelm them before their engine gets going. Also, Titans with static abilities, Effects that are always on and can't be altered by phase shifts are a huge problem for Frayvenn. They need a complicated board to play with. A simple, direct assault is their worst enemy.
Beyond the tabletop, these titans serve a huge narrative function. They are not just monstrous, they are corrupted philosophies. Their story arcs have names like the Hollow Clinic Betrayal or the Signal Divide. They symbolize what happens when a good intention is pushed to its most extreme illogical conclusion.
It's a powerful message that corruption isn't always an external force that breaks down walls. Sometimes, it's an internal one. It's ideals being twisted, purpose becoming unbalanced, and good intentions being pushed so far that they become their destructive opposite.
Menderes wanted to heal everything, which led to a state where nothing was allowed to have a flaw, and so he began correcting things that weren't broken and became Splyntar. Logisthex wanted perfect order, which led to a fear of any unknown variable, and so he began flooding the system with known data and became Discalyx. Etherlyn sought ultimate clarity, which led her to seek all possible futures and drowned in the infinite noise, becoming Frayvenn.
It's tragedy in game form. And in that story, playing against the corrupted trio becomes more than just a game. It becomes a test of your own focus, your own discipline, and your ability to find order in the middle of pure, weaponized chaos. It's a mirror.
A mirror for the world it builds, and maybe for the fragile logic we rely on every day. It asks the player, how do you hold on to your strategy when you can no longer trust your own eyes? In every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves: draw, charge, building, act, clash, end.
Simplicity for the novice, mastery for the titan.